My name is Nelson Makanda. I am the chair of this selection panel. And on behalf of this panel, allow me to thank you for showing interest in the advertised position of member of the IEBC, which Kenyans are very desirous that we fill up. And so thank you for offering yourself for it. Secondly, congratulations for being shortlisted for this position. We hope to interact with you on the basis of that shortlisting today. I want to invite my colleagues here to introduce themselves to you. Then after that, we will come back to yourself. Please, Linda.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
My name is Linda Kiome. I'm the Vice Chairperson. I take this opportunity to welcome you, for this interviewing session.
All right.
Bwana Abdi, habari ya leo?
Salama sana.
Naitwa Bwana Andrew Tanui, mwanachama wa chopo hili la uteuzi na karibu.
Asante.
Abdi, good morning.
Morning.
Afternoon, actually. Caroline Kituku, a member of this panel.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mohamed.
Morning.
My name is Adam Solo, a member of this selection panel.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
My name is Nicodemus Bore. I'm a member of this panel.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Fatuma Ali, a member of the panel.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Abdi.
Good afternoon.
And welcome to our today's session. My name is Kokimuli Grigno, and I'm a member of the panel.
Thank you.
Mohamed Abdullahi Abdi.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name is Evans Misati. I'm coming to this interactive session.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Abdi, we come to you, and our desire is to get to know you, hear about your profile and those things that are significant for the role you have applied for. Also mention to us if you have received any honor or an award, and if you belong to any professional society. May you proceed, please.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chair, distinguished members of this selection panel. First of all, I want to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Mohamed Abdullahi Abdi, and I come from Mandera County. That's my home county, but I actually grew up in Nairobi. I'm one of the first generation people who had moved from Mandera. My grandfather and my great-grandfather were both policemen.
So do we treat you as Nairobi or as Mandera?
My home county is Mandera.
Thank you.
Yes.
Proceed.
Both my grandfather and great-grandfather were policemen. And my father was one of the first people to be educated. He worked as a civil servant in range management in the Ministry of Agriculture. That's how we ended up moving from Mandera to Mombasa to Nairobi, where my journey begins. I attended Kongoni Primary School just here in South Sea. It's a public school and a city council school. I finished my Kenya Certificate of Primary Education there. Immediately I finished there, I proceeded to Highway Secondary School, which is just across from here in South B. It was also a public school, just like any other normal school. And I ended up getting my Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education from there. That is when I reached my 18-year-old and I started looking for universities locally and abroad. I applied for university in the United States and I was accepted in one of the best universities, actually the 10th best university, University of Wisconsin-Madison, in Madison, Wisconsin. I did 4 years there and I graduated with Global Economics, International Studies and Policy. I did not stop there, I proceeded with masters. I attended the University of Massachusetts in Boston, again in the United States, and I got my master's in economics. Finished there, I was accepted again in PhD program, in the doctorate, in policy in the same school, University of Massachusetts. I have not completed it, finished classes, but I did not do my thesis and dissertation. Hopefully, inshallah, I will do it after, in future. Now, Whilst I was in University of Wisconsin, that's when I started working. I worked with a multicultural organization there, and we were dealing with STEM, which was a new thing: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Our role was to bring students who have never been to college first, and then to bring low-income students who have never gotten anything, and we were giving them scholarships through the universities. We went to high schools, to different areas to come and recruit them. Whilst I was working there, we opened up an organization called Towards Africa Without Borders with other African students. And part of this organization, which is still there till now, was to do two things in terms of policy. One was debt relief for Africa, and two is trade. Now, the senator of Wisconsin at that time was called Russ Feingold, and he was in charge of foreign affairs on trade, on African affairs. Luckily, he was the senator of Wisconsin. We invited them to 3 major conferences. 2 was held in University of Wisconsin-Madison. We invited over 24 African scholars from Africa, all over Africa, and the diaspora. And we conducted those conferences, and one was done in Durban, South Africa. That one I didn't attend, I already graduated. But our focus was trade. At that time, AGOA, this Africa Growth Opportunity Act, was being brought to the fold. And the idea was the United States to get access to African raw materials to be brought to America. But us, we're emphasizing on the market that Africans should be allowed to participate so that our exports can increase. We have always been having trade deficit in this country and most African countries. So our idea was to make sure that this entrepreneurial African people can be able to access to that market. The second thing was debt relief. Debt relief is very simple. We have loans. Until today, we are paying a large sum of loans to the International Monetary Fund and World Bank. And we are not even calling for debt reduction, we are calling for debt relief, because most of our African countries are spending a lot of money on that. Currently, right now, I work for Resource Development Associates as a consultant. We are based in 34 countries in the world, and I did strategic management with them, leadership development, leadership skills, and we work with international organizations, governments, civil societies, and so many other companies, even private companies. Now, previously, I have worked with APRM, Africa Peer Review Mechanism. This was the governance issue in regard to the new Partnership for African Development. And part of the pillars of the APRM was to have political governance and democracy. This was a self-assessment, a self-voluntary thing that African countries signed up so that people can collect views from the local people and then give those views to the AU. And then if the governments accept it, then they can be implemented. At that time, we had Graça Machel, an eminent member of the panels, who was the head of that, and she was coming as an external reviewer, but then we had internal reviewer. My role there was to do country reviews. I went to Lamu, Mombasa, most of the coastal areas, Kilifi, and I collected data there and I did research on that. I also worked during the promulgation of the Constitution of 2010 with the Transitional Authority. At that time, the counties were coming up and they were looking for capacity building with the counties. The question of decentralization of power from the national government to the counties was the one which was being addressed. Can the counties be able to manage all these institutions that were being given there, and do they have the capacity to accommodate them? That's how we were working with them. Lastly, I want to say that I have also worked with IEBC in a different level. I was accredited through a non-governmental organization to be an observer. I have observed 3 elections in 2013, in the first election in 2017. Again, when there was a repeat election after the Supreme Court nullified the elections, I did again be a observer, and in 2022. Honorable Chair, in brief, that's my education and skills of what I've been doing.
Thank you very much. I want to invite Linda to ask you some questions. Linda, please.
Sorry, thank you, Chairman. Mr. Mohamed, what experience in your career journey has prepared you for the purposes of this commission? What experiences have prepared you for the purposes of this commission?
I have a financial background in management with the company that I'm working with right now, Resource Development Associates. I've been doing a lot of financial audit of companies and under the company from different countries. I have also worked in governance with the APRM, Africa Peer Review Mechanism. Also under the civil society, I have conducted civic education. I have worked with them in even Mandera County, where I come from. We have gone to over 6 counties through a non-governmental organization, trying to make people do voter registration and civic education. And in those counties also, of course, we are being paid for that, but it is a role that I played in terms of the skills that have been coming out of here. And I've also been an observer with the IEBC. Now, I believe that I can bring a lot of skills in terms of financial management, because that's something I study and that's my skill, but also on the issue of governance, civic education, being an observer and monitoring the elections. I've been part of it.
Is there any experience you have had in your career journey that has tested your leadership skills and you have come out strongly? And if so, could you share that with this panel?
Yes, I remember in 2008 in the United States, we were asked to do a consulting firm, and I was a lead in that. There was a housing crisis in the United States in 2008. Now, with that housing crisis, we already knew what the problem was. So some of my colleagues were saying we should not go out and do the research. We can actually just go to the online and do the normal thing, say this is what happened, this is what happened. We already knew the problem. But the consultancy itself said we have to actually go out there. Massachusetts is divided into different cities. There is Lowell, there is Boston, there is New Hampshire, there's different places where you have to physically go to those people, send them messages, go and do online interviews, go to the banks and do it. So our colleagues, some of them said, hey, there's no reason we do it. We already have the question. So I said, no, we cannot do that, because at the end of the result is I'm the lead person here. All this will fall back to me. We have to go physically, everybody to divide them. So because I was the lead, they agreed. So everybody went and did their part. After they did their part, we interviewed the banks. Of course, at that time, there was a lot of problems. The banks had given a lot of loans to people who are not even supposed to get loans. And we knew that was a problem. But then we gave our advisory opinion and we submitted our consultancies. For me, if I wanted the easy way out, the answers were there. But I refused that because I know this thing can come back to me. And also it's about integrity. We're being paid for that.
Thank you very much. I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I want to ask Madam Caro to ask you some questions. Caroline, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Mohamed,
Yes.
inclusiveness is
Okay.
is one of the national values
Yes.
and principles that guide good governance in this country.
Thank you.
How does the IBC ensure that it follows and adheres to this principle of inclusiveness when it is carrying out its mandate under Article 81 and 86 of the Constitution?
IBC does a lot, but inclusiveness is part and parcel of not only IBC, but the Constitution of Kenya. And they have to adhere to that. One of the issues I can mention is the issue of nomination. When parties, political parties are nominating people and they are not doing the right thing in including marginalized people, women, youth, disabled, one of the places where, apart from the political parties, political parties tribunal, dispute tribunal, the first place they go to is the IEBC in terms of nomination. Secondly, you know, when elections are being conducted, we do have different political parties who are supposed to include women, minorities, disabled people in part of also their own when they are running, the 200, when they're running as MPs or senators or governors. Now the IEBC can talk with the political parties, do like a stakeholder meeting with the political parties, with women groups, with other interested parties to ensure that this inclusiveness is there.
Okay. Sorry, that seemed like I am cutting you just for the interest of time.
Yeah.
Would like to be very specific about how IBC itself, not how it influences other stakeholders, but how itself in carrying out its own mandate. How does it ensure that there is inclusiveness?
IBC itself.
Yes, when it is carrying out its specific mandate, its work.
Okay. The issue of voter education, IEBC does conduct voter education in different constituencies, in different counties. Now, when IEBC conducts this voter education and civic education, they have to include the different people who have been left aside. For example, the youth have a voter apathy. IEBC can, through the social media, ensure that they can reach out the youth. Today, you cannot do without the social media. We have LinkedIn, we have all this TikTok and all that. We have two ways to do things. There's a traditional way of doing voter education and voter registration. But we also have to bring up the modern technology way of doing it. Today, I just know that you have talked this before, M-Pesa and ATM, they're doing very well in this country. They can go to any county, any village, under a tree, you get it. There is a way that IBC can use the technology by bringing up more IT people into the field to ensure that some of these youths who probably might not be going to that traditional ways of having barazas and conferences can be included in that. Now, whilst we're doing that, there are also people who are not having technology. We can still maintain that traditional way of doing it. And for me, where I come from, like in Mandera, the distance from one area to another is very far away. You might even miss people when you talk about inclusiveness. Even the people who are not even women and youth and others, they might not be reached. So how do you do that? You have to go to the traditional way of doing it. At the same time, I also encourage the phones, the IT systems, and all that to be brought in. We have the AI today. Technology is at its best. Yeah.
So how does the IBC ensure the inclusivity of the, for example, persons with disabilities, the marginalized communities? You've spoken extensively about the youth,
yes.
And women. Yeah. So take us through accommodating persons with disability and the marginalized communities.
Okay, for a long
and
time.
And the most vulnerable, the women and children, for if needs be.
For a long time, we have not been able to work with these kind of groups of people because they have been marginalized for a long time. When you say persons with disabilities, they're also part of the marginalization of this country. For me, we can work with organizations that are dealing with those kind of society. For example, we have a lot of society in this country who are straight working with the persons with disability. They're working with women groups. We can invite them as stakeholders, work with them, see how we can go to the counties and do it. Apart from what I said about IT, we can also go to vernacular languages in radios and all that and try to bring them on board. You see, when we are targeting different groups, we have to know how we are targeting them. If I have my grandfather in Elwak in Mandera County, he might not understand what IT I'm talking about. But there's a way through the vernacular when they throw something there and say, hey, these guys have voter registration, you're a governor, this is where your democracy begins, the heart of democracy, the governance. Then he can understand it in the local languages. Even women, there's a way to talk to them. There's a way to the IEBC to, but all this, first of all, needs resources, and it needs to be done earlier than what we are doing in 2 months and 3 months.
Any thoughts on the persons with disabilities?
The person with disabilities, my best bet I will go with is their societies and organizations where we can approach them earlier than normal times. And then we can also look at different counties where we have our officials and ask them where most of the persons with disabilities are residing and try to reach out to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I wish you well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Koki.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Abdi, it appears like very little is known of how IEBC resolves disputes that arise from its implementing the processes, the electoral cycle activities and processes. If you are fortunate to join the IEBC as a member, how would you ensure that this process is transparent, it's trusted, and stakeholders have confidence in it?
The elections have a lot of disputes. If we can start with primary before we even talk about the IEBC, because sometimes we start with free and fair when it comes to IEBC with constituencies and counties. When you go back, the political parties are first having the elections locally for the governors, for the senators, for the MPs. Now, there's a lot of disputes that come out of from that. Before this dispute...
Sorry to interrupt. Please confine yourself
to IEBC.
To IEBC and how you can improve that process to have transparency, for it to be more trusted, and for stakeholders to have confidence in that process, because you are applying to join the IEBC. So when you get there, yes, how will you open this process?
Okay, the disputes that arise from the parties who are running for elections, the IEBC, first of all, has to do a thorough investigation of what is happening to the candidates or to the people who are bringing those disputes to the table. The first thing is we have an Elections Act and the Constitution of 2010, which guides us on what to do when these disputes come there. But as the disputes are coming, there are a lot of people who might be unfairly targeted by the parties where they're running. Maybe somebody is not in good terms with the Secretary General, others, and it's been brought to the IEBC. The IEBC needs to thoroughly investigate it. They need to have investigations done on that. Then they need to have a claims report. They take also the questions of the parties, what they're doing, and then come up with solutions on how to do it. One of the things that you have talked about is the issue of transparency. Before even the elections are done, we have to open up to all stakeholders, including the political parties, to come and see how we do the dispute management amongst us.
Does IEBC resolve disputes that arise from political parties' internal processes?
The only thing IEBC does internally is in terms of nomination.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abdi, and all the best. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to ask FCPA to also engage the candidate.
Thank you, Chair. Bwana Abdullahi.
Yes.
IEBC, like any other Chapter 15 commission, have jurisdiction over limited subject matter, like IBC is for elections and boundaries.
Yes.
Other commissions are revenue collection, others for human rights. So even within IBC, as we recruit these commissioners, we are also looking at specific skills that the commissioners will bring on board.
Yes.
The way IBC now is limited to elections and boundaries. So, Bwana Abdullahi,
Yes.
what skill that when we put you as one of the 7 commissioners, or the 6 commissioners excluding the chair, what is this skill that we think Bwana Abdullahi will be bringing on board to IBC?
I bring about 2 major skills, apart from others that I have got experience in. One is governance, and the second one is financial skills. I have dealt with a lot of financial management and in procurement books with the companies. Where there's a big problem in procurement if we don't have a thorough vetting of what is going on there. I know that sometimes when companies do things, they do single sourcing for some products. And my belief is that apart from something that cannot be found from anywhere else, we should be able to allow other companies to get involved. And there should be an open space for people to know what is being done in procurement. For example, when we were doing our activities with the Resource Development Associates, we were covering consultancies for companies who wanted to know how their procurement was doing. So we were giving them a rating of this is not the way to go.
Now, under the current arrangement,
yes,
procurement is a function of the Secretariat.
Yes.
So how will you be using those skills as a commissioner?
You are part of the policy making. You're not going to be involved in direct procurement, but you can advise as a policy that you feel this is good, this is not good, without, you have to, the thing is that you have to differentiate the roles of the commissioners as policy makers and the secretary as the one who are running the affairs of the IEBC. But at the same time, there are issues that are going to be brought to the commissioners. For example, they want to use the budget of the IEBC for doing something. I believe that as policymakers, we have to talk about that and talk to them also in terms of doing the cohesion with them and then advise them on what to do. And secondly, I want to bring also the issue of governance. I have covered a lot of different companies. I've worked with different international organizations. I've worked with IEBC itself. I want to bring those skills from abroad and locally to the IEBC.
Thank you. So lastly, we are aware, it's in the public domain in terms of disputes that arises in IEBC.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them related to procurement, others are governance. So how, as a commissioner, how would you mitigate those internal wrangles or disputes? And what measures will you put in place to ensure that they don't recur and affect the operations of IEBC?
The first thing I will do is, first of all, we have to clarify the roles of both the IEBC policymakers, led by the chairman and the commissioners, and the secretariat, which is led by the CEO of the IEBC. Now, for me, what I will do is, first of all, as policymakers, I look myself as a national oversight board of the IEBC, not necessarily the CEO running things. So when it comes to the issues of procurement, it is not our business to go and procure things for IEBC. It is not our business to go and buy anything in terms of money or anything. Our job is to look at the budget. When we see the budget, as policy makers, as the National Oversight Board, does this make sense? Does this not make sense? The secondly is the issue of procurement. Procurement, most of the time, from what I have been working, single sourcing is the worst thing you can ever do, because single sourcing can give people leeway to do what they want. But if in case we don't have any other company doing, and this is one of the most modern equipment, then we don't have a choice but to agree on that. And that question also comes with costs. Can we afford it? So yes, the issue of conflict has been there. We've seen the Chiloba, Chebukati conflict before on those issues that have been mentioned in the public. For me, there's an adherence to the law, the Constitution, and the IEBC Act and the Code of Ethics. All of them talk about these things and where our line draws. If we cannot understand each other, we also have legal advisors who can get, they can go to court and get an understanding of what is the difference of that. We can also communicate amongst ourselves and see what we can do.
Thank you, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I want to invite Misari to ask you some questions.
Thanks so much, Chair. Mohamed, you have just mentioned about the conflicts.
Yes.
And I don't want to mention names. I just want to ask you that in some cases,
Yes.
we have had some CEOs which have had a very good relationship with the chair of the commissioners,
Yes.
and in some other cases, a very stormy relationship.
Yes.
So what do you attribute that to? Is it an issue of personality or an institutional infrastructure?
First of all, we are human beings. And human beings, we can be very good friends, we can work together, or we can also disagree with a lot of things. Maybe they're personality issues, maybe they're not. But for me, once people come together for a job, there's something to be done here. We have to do that job. Now, these conflicts we are talking about, can it be avoidable? Yes and no. Yes, it can be avoidable if we have cohesion, team building, we understand each other. We can even quarrel in private, but come to an understanding of what needs to be implemented. If we cannot, then we can take our time slowly to try to implement them. You cannot know what happened because you're not part of that board, because even with the last election, there was the Cherera 4 and Chebukati plus 2, Chebukati 3 plus 1 with the CEO. So that's like you are implementing the CEO being with the chairman. Things can happen. It's an unfortunate incident that's going to happen. But the first thing that the IEBC, I believe these commissioners, if they come in, is to look at the past analysis and do a SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, an internal audit of what happened before. So you can learn from that and move forward. And also those who are coming in, you don't know if whatever has happened can be documented for future commissioners. We should not have just a commission that after it's done, it's done. We should have a long term, whether we are succeeding or we are failing.
Thanks so much. So how will you, if you are given an opportunity and you are a commissioner,
yes,
how will you address those challenges, particularly on issues of accountability and exercising the responsibility, given that the public out here, it's the commissioners who are accountable, not even the secretariat. So how do you exercise that accountability? Through which systems?
The commissioners, the head of the IEBC is the chair of the IEBC. So a lot of backstops with him, and then the commissioners who are coming next with him. In terms of accountability, every institution has procedures on how to account for things. The only problem is when we become too private and we limit access to everything to ourselves, then questions start coming about. My idea is the issue of accountability should be when we have agreed on something, we can give the public to know even what we have agreed on, because we do have a trust deficit in our own IEBC. And you need to do more than what we're actually doing to convince people that there is nothing going on here.
You're talking about communication.
Yes.
But in my view, I wanted you to address it from the point of view of subcommittees.
Yes, there's different subcommittees I know of IEBC. They have the finance committee, which deals a lot about the procurement. They have the communication. They have different subcommittees of that. For me, I will say that the first thing we can do is to have team building amongst ourselves, and then come up with strategies on how to tackle some of these issues in relation to accountability and communication and all that.
Thanks so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask Ms. Fatuma Saman to ask you some questions. Fatuma, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Mohamed,
Yes.
please tell the panel what policy interventions should the IEBC adapt to institutionalize youth and women participation across the electoral cycle, the entire cycle.
Okay.
Yeah. What policy interventions should the IEBC adapt to institutionalize youth and women participation across the electoral cycle?
One of the most important thing about the youth is we are tech savvy today. We are IT, most of us. So the policy that I will actually implement with IEBC is to bring both the civic education and the voter registration through technologies. We have right now a lot of people on social media. Worldwide, we have 5 billion people in social media. This is one of the most important tools. The Gen Z today are part of that social media. And before we even talk about the policy itself, one of the most important thing is for them to be registered as voters. And for them to be registered as voters, also they need ID cards and passports. So we have to encourage them through even IEBC to go out there and get their passports, get their IDs, so that they can register as voters. We can do send text messages to different phones, and it's accessible all over the country to different people, not only the youth and the women, but to everybody, but at the same time targeting them because they do that. There are social media where the youth go every day and they look for this kind of systems. We can target it by advertisement. And for women, we can look at women organizations and encourage them to work with us collectively on voter education and voter registration. With the youth, again, we can make sure that everywhere where IDs are being given, we do have an IEBC office there. Whenever somebody is given an ID, you can ask them, just like in US when people are given a driver's license, do you want to register to vote? If they're in a hurry, we can have a website where they can go and then register to vote. We can actually make a website where it is easy for you to register to vote than to go where you're supposed to be. Only you need to download your ID number for you to be given that. So the most important critical part for the youth is the social media. Of course, we do have people in villages and in other areas, we can do the traditional way, which we have been doing before. And voter registration should not only be done only on the last few months before the elections. Immediately, if commissioners can be sworn in, then they can start the job of voter registration as early as possible.
Okay, all that, all those activities,
Yes.
What policy intervention would you anchor them on?
Or the policy intervention that I will anchor them on, I will actually use the issue of the heart of democracy starts with voting. And according to the Constitution, it says that it is them who are going to elect directly the people to represent them. So the policy intervention I will do is to make sure that every IEBC office in the whole country has youth representatives in their offices. Even here, we can actually employ more youth bloggers to do this kind of system. And for me, it is to bring them on board so that they can be part of this organization.
Thank you very much. I wish you well.
Thank you.
Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. I want to ask Nicodemus to ask some questions. Nicodemus, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was happy when you said we, the youth.
Yes.
And looking at your age.
Yes.
You have expanded the bracket of youth.
It depends. I am the middleman. I have been brought up by the older generation in terms of my teachers, my parents, and everything. I know they've gone through a lot. They've done a lot for this country. Today we're talking about a constitution. I'm sure.
I wasn't.
Yes, I know, I'm coming there.
So-
but I understand also the expectations of the Gen Zs,
You know,
who are my younger
according
brothers and
to
sisters.
the constitution, the youth.
But I'm not in the youth bracket. I'm a little bit
Oh.
older than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm near to I'm Gen X.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what approaches will you use to foster and maintain culture of integrity within IEBC, both among its staff and the members of the commission, while also including the external stakeholders, given a chance?
Integrity is the most important issue. If I could give you an example, in 2002, when the elections were conducted in Kenya, everybody believed it is a free and fair elections. Why was it free and fair? It was credible, it was transparent, and there was integrity in how it was done. This was the first time the ruling party of a country conceded defeat, and the presidential candidate at that time, who was in the ruling party, conceded defeat. In Time magazine, I remember in 2002, they mentioned that Kenya was one of the most optimistic countries in the world, meaning that there was a lot of expectation. People were happy. And all this started because of the elections, not because of change of the economy or that, because of the elections. Why? Because there was integrity. It was done in a good way. People accepted the results, and it was done. For me, one of the issues of integrity has to be how we conduct our elections. My first advice is, let's use a modern kind of technology. I can give you a very good example. Recently in Somaliland, there was an election that was held. When they came for voter registration, they had the iris system. You just put your eyes there, the elections officials put everything there, your ID card, everything. Nothing else is done, everything is done, you go home. During the time of elections, when you come and put your eyes there, your ballot paper comes out of the machine. So like we have 700 polling station, that polling station will have the 700 names that were registered there or wherever it was registered. Then they go and then they vote, they put that in an electronic system. Now, how do they do it? Let's assume by 2 p.m., 450 people have voted. Presidential candidate A has 200 here, presidential candidate B has 250. You don't have to wait for 5 p.m. We already know this one has 200. It's already been tabulated, 250. By 5 p.m., everything is done. Maybe if people were in the line and they pass 5 p.m., everything was tabulated. Now, Kenya is an advanced economically country. We have been talking about M-Pesa and all this. It's a very simple system. It's even better system than what we are doing. It's even cheaper. You know, right now with our ballot boxes, we have a counterfold, we have a serial number, a color-coded thing. Last time in 2022, I remember they added the deputy presidential candidate to the presidential candidate of his team, so as to show more. So we do all these things. I even heard that our ballot boxes, our ballot papers are more secure than money. So this shows you how much trust deficit we have. So why don't we adopt a technology that goes fast? Maybe in future we can even go with the smartphones when everybody moves to it. But this is a very simple system, very quick system. Let's adopt it. Secondly, we need to demystify this notion of bombers of Kenya. The most interesting part is when we are announcing the elections, we bring presidential candidate A, presidential candidate P, the chair, everybody to come there. While we have agreed in law that the polling station are the final results. Now, what if something happens to one candidate? Isn't it a national security problem for us? What if something happens to the chair? So let's demystify the National Tallying Center in Bomas. Let's have the stakeholders being there. Let's have the observers be there. Even the chairman and the secretary general of political parties to be there. But the presidential candidates, just like in America, Trump was in New York. in East Coast, and former Vice President Kamala Harris was in California. East Coast, West Coast, in their headquarters, nobody was close to each other. And it was more emotive this time than any other time, even in the United States, more than us. So for the sake of our own, we can do that. The other thing is recently in Nigeria, when they were conducting elections, we had the returning officer being vice chancellor. Why do we always, I have no problem with the returning officer and presiding officers who have done a very good job with low wages and everything in the past elections. But why don't we give people who are eminent in our societies to serve? Some of them don't even want to be paid. They just want to serve the country. We, just like I was telling you in APRM, Gressa Michelle is serving. She was not even being paid. She's just doing it for the continent. We can have people like that, professors, people, respectable people, to be returning officers and presiding officers. So I believe integrity will come when people believe that what we are doing is right, and we can show them. When we have done it before, we can do it again through different means.
Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to invite Professor to ask you some questions. Prof, please.
Abdi,
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's me who never heard you clearly.
Yes.
But when you are answering panelist Bore with your smart technology,
Yes.
did you say that as people are voting, it is tabulating candidate A has gotten this and candidate B has gotten this?
Yes.
Don't you think, and who is seeing that result?
The election officials, and the president lost.
Don't you think that's the most dangerous thing that you can have ever? Because some people are still in the queue, and this election official already knows who is winning.
Let me try to explain a little bit from what I understood. In our polling station, we have 700 people.
Yes.
Now, when we have voter registration, let's assume in that polling station there are 500 people.
Yes.
Now, that 500 people, I get your question, but it is easy to monitor the computers because even the presidential candidates have agents there. Political parties have agents there. I understand your question, but for me, why do we have to wait for tallying? Because the more we wait, the more problems come.
No. You see, that simple technology of yours.
Yes.
Can't you see?
Did he say it was his or it was Somaliland?
It is Somaliland. It's just an example.
Okay.
Yes, I'm just saying that we should move to the Irish system.
That Somaliland technology.
Yes.
Can't it be worked on in a way that it only shows the tabulation after the booth is closed? Because you can't be showing results when then it's not a free and fair election, because some people will get influenced by how the vote is going. So I hear what you want.
Yes.
But it can only be, as you clearly stated,
yes,
it can only bring out that result after that polling station has closed. It can't be showing results while other people are voting. Then
that's also a good observation. We can use the Irish system and then tabulate it at the end at 5 p.m., but it'll be faster.
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
it's also a good suggestion.
You are aware that if you are to become a commissioner,
yes,
you'll be making decisions under pressure, as you correctly already stated, what happens in bombers and so on.
Yes.
My question, therefore, is elections can be tense and the pressure can mount quickly.
Yes.
You've told us about your experiences both in governance and management.
Yes.
Tell us about, if at all there is any, a time in your career when you had to make a tough call in a high pressure situation. What guided your decision making, and how did you ensure you remained fair and professional?
Well, most of the time we're under pressure as consultants. when we go to companies, they give us a timeline. Sometimes the timeline that we are given is not enough even to cover what we are supposed to do. Believe it or not, when we have clients who are actually paying a lot to the company, we have to do a lot and work sometimes 16 to 18 hours a day. We might be given a holiday after 3 months for like a week, but we end up, there's no Sunday, there's no Saturday. And for me, sometimes I'll just go to the mosque on Friday and come back. We have pressure and pressure and pressure from the CEO to the down. Even the CEO is under pressure. And these companies, they are not going to wait for you because it's about their money and they're giving you money to do it. Now with IEBC, I know we have timelines. Whoever comes in as a commissioner, you have 2 years left or so to do the elections. The issue of delimitation of boundaries has not been done. It was supposed to be done between 8 and 12 years, which is 2020 and 2024. It's passed. It has to be done, whether it's done now or after, but it has to be done. And immediately, if delimitation is done, according to the laws, it cannot count in 2027 if it's a 1-year timeline. This is all pressure. But once you decide to go into a job, you should be prepared for all and everything. You applied for it, and you have to take the pressures. There's a time that we had a timeline of 7 days. That work, normally, with the normal people, it will have taken us 21 days. This was a big company, a sizable company that was dealing with cylinders, covering the whole of America, or the whole North America, and the whole of Europe. Our job was to make sure that that thing is done within 7 days. So our staff was increased. We were under pressure. We were doing it at home. We were doing it there. We were doing it in our laptops, everything. We managed to do it. Not to the perfection that I might want it, but they were happy with it. So that is a time I was really under pressure to the extent that I said, okay, now what do? Do we go 24 hours and not sleep? But it's something that to think about.
My last question in this segment.
Yes.
Imagine Mohamed Abdullahi Abdi is a commissioner.
Yes.
The IEBC has just announced disputed results.
Yes.
And tensions are high in the country.
Yes.
What steps would Mohamed Abdullahi Abdi take to manage the situation, to protect the institution's credibility, and maintain public trust? I say this in hindsight on what the late Commissioner Kivuitu did under pressure. I say this with what the late Chebukati and the Cherera Ford did under pressure. You know what it did to the country.
Yes.
And to the IEBC as an institution.
Yes.
So let us hear what Mohamed Abdullahi Abdi is made of, what he would do.
You know, when the issue of public trust, before we even reach there, did we do what we're supposed to do first? Because if we had not done what we are supposed to do according to the law, then we will not be having those pressures. Kivitu's time was the time of ECK. And through the Kreger report, it talks about a lot of rigging, and there is no institution that was standing up for anything. There was nobody to answer. In terms of Cherera, it was a different time. It was during the time that IEBC has already been constituted. Now, for me, these are issues that when the commissioners come in, should start to discuss before it is too late. The first thing is, what do we learn of what happened in 2002, 2007, 2013, 2017 election, which was nullified by the Supreme Court? And why was it nullified? We can study those things. 2022, what was wrong? And 2027, what can we do? The best election we can have is if both political parties agree one has lost, the other one has won. And the only way for them to agree is, again, the issue of integrity that was being asked, and the issue of public trust has to be there. For me, the policy making should be about the people. What is it that we can give the people to trust us that we can do what is right? And there's nothing more important than transparency, openness, allowing all to come. Politicians are politicians. They want to win. We can allow them as stakeholders, but we don't follow what they tell us. We don't want a political interference, because this thing is going to affect not only the credibility of the IEBC, but the credibility of the commissioners themselves. So here you are destroying your career, destroying your name, whether you are a part of it or not. So for me, the early arrangement is the most important thing. And the earlier we say this is how the elections are going to be conducted, and that's why I'm bringing up the issues of the iris system and all this demystifying the tallying center, and come up with ways to do the right thing. From the time we are registering voters, to the time the elections are being done, to the transmission of results, there has to be an open system that everybody can see. That's the only way. It's only when the public believes that you're doing the right thing that you'll get what you need to do.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Prof. Do you have some two final short questions, please?
Sure. Abdi, you've told us that you have worked with the African peer review mechanism.
Yes.
When was it initiated as a special agency of the African Union, and when was it established?
The APRM?
Yes.
I believe it was in 2003.
I've talked of two things, initiation and establishment. Which one is which?
Establishment was earlier. Initiated was in 2003. Establishment was in 2000, I believe.
Okay, my last question under this segment is the LAPSET corridor program is part of the Kenya Vision 2030 strategy. Which countries are covered under the program's development initiatives?
Which countries
are covered
under
the program's development initiatives?
Kenya is 1, Ethiopia is 2, South Sudan is 3.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullahi, for your time. You have helped us learn a bit more about yourself, but also about our electoral processes. And we want to thank you for that. We've come to the end, but before then, do you have a question or a comment to make? Kindly, in a minute or so.
Well, Honorable Chair and distinguished members of this selection panel, mine is just to thank you for choosing me amongst the thousands. I pray and hope that you will consider me as one of the commissioners. Having said that, again, I say thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much. The notebook and the pen is yours, and even the bottle of water. There's a gentleman at the door who brought you in. He has your certificates and documents. He'll give them back to you. Thank you very much, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, yes, and there is a community behind there. We appreciate you for coming. Thank you very, very much for being part of the gallery today. Thank you. Members of media, we will break now and resume at 2:45 for our afternoon session. And we shall have 2 candidates at that time. Please, thank you. You can pull down your gadgets and let's see you at lunch. Thank you very much.